Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today for this Monday podcast. I'm recording this on Monday, June 23rd, 2025, and I'm going to focus on some of the major world events that are unfolding. As you'll recall, perhaps if you're a regular listener, at the beginning of June, I was saying how June is a catalyst month. This is a month when a lot gets pushed out, pushed forward. It's very dynamic, world-changing energy as we've been moving through the intensifying square between Saturn and Neptune in Aries squaring Jupiter and now the Sun in Cancer. The square is tension, and when it's happening in these two cardinal energies, there is pressure for a new beginning that is bound to happen. As it comes out, the pressure pushes the energies out and moves us into new experiences in our reality. And that is what's unfolding here in June, in alignment with the astrology that this would be a big world-changing month. We are certainly seeing how the energies are escalating with U.S. airstrikes and intensified developments in Iran and Israel. And there are some things in the astrology that I want to discuss more from a higher perspective. So please note that this is not going to focus in on the issues that are being presented and that you're seeing perhaps on social media, news coverage, etc. I'm going to look at the astrology and what it's telling us about right now, which is that mainly this is not what it appears to be. I'm going to explain more, and that this will go into 2026. That the energies of the astrological transits mean that what is starting now is perhaps going to dissipate, but it will come up again in 2026 as the planets leave Aries and return to Pisces and then re-enter Aries in 2026. In addition to those points, we also have Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus. This is the anaretic degree or critical degree point of Taurus. Uranus has not been here for 84 years. And when we have an outer planet reaching the final degree point of a sign, this is where there are amplified lessons, significant developments, and whatever has been avoided, delayed, or resisted bursts out, especially with Uranus. And Uranus being in Taurus has been destabilizing our collective values, financial systems, what we invest in that has meaning to us. Uranus and Taurus brings about wild and sudden changes that do not last, but they come up nonetheless. Taurus is an earth sign, and so it brings up resources from the earth, including minerals, agriculture, food supply, mining, and anything that can be harvested from the earth's resources. Uranus in Taurus brings in the windfalls as well as the scarcity. And so that is another part of this equation, again, that will last into 2026. We have big changes this year, 2025, with the outer planets. That's what we've been talking about for a while now. And so now we're really seeing more of how these energies are showing up in the real world. And it's also bringing us into some very important choice points that connect to your own ascension journey and your own soul growth. Because these cycles that we're moving through, it can be easy to stay in your own pattern or cycle with the fear, cycle with the primal energies, emotions, and experiences that are triggered when world events become amplified and accelerated. And so even though I'm touching on what's happening in the physical world, we are still in control of our energetics. We are in control of how we move the energy and how we contribute to mass consciousness during these pivotal times. And so that means we are also in flux, and you could feel your own tension. You could feel your nervous system has been ramped up. You might even sense that more fears, doubts, worries, and stress is now front and center. And so this is a time to use your spiritual tools, to implement your energy practices, to apply what you know is good for your energy, to support your emotional body, your physical body, take care of yourself if the stress level has increased, and basically walk the talk. Because it isn't when things are easy and abundant and smooth that we're tested. It's in times when the energies are bigger that we understand this is when I bring that forward and I practice this, knowing that it supports me and knowing that it is where I have control and power over my own energy systems. So this is a time to work with anything that supports taking care of yourself. And it is important to do that. Meaning we can't simply spiritually bypass things or think, oh, it's just going to be okay. It's going to be easy. It's going to be fine when you're really feeling something else. So honor what you're feeling and be in that honest place with yourself. But also notice how much more elevated you are now, because so many people are clearer. They are at a higher frequency. They are pulsing at a higher vibration. And you might find that you have detached more than you thought or expected from developments that are occurring. This can also be beautiful confirmation of your growth and where you're at this time. And I do have to state that my intention with this information is to focus on how we grow, evolve, and move forward, how we continue to connect with the higher new earth frequencies, and that even though there are the energies of war, aggression, and violence very present, we have the ability to energetically move it higher with energy work, collective energy work, collective focus on resolution, peace, love, and basically not being in those lower fear frequencies, because there are energies and entities that feed off of that want us to be in that vibration of fear, of powerlessness, staying in the aggressive, conflict-oriented war energies. And so there needs to be an awareness here that even as events unfold, your focus and your intention is in the higher realms, that you're not feeding those lower fear-based frequencies. Where yes, there's an acknowledgement and a connection to reality, but your energy is intending to go higher without being dragged into the lower energies. 2025 is about a very big paradigm shift. And as this continues to unfold, we see the split occurring. And this is where we have to be more intentional with how we use our energy, even if it doesn't appear to be making a difference just yet. That's because when you're working with the higher frequencies, the energies don't show up in the same way that they do in the physical world. So basically, we can't look for validation in the physical world. Rather, we have to continue to go up into the higher realms and feed that energy, feed those frequencies that are going to support the physical reality in its ongoing evolution, which includes collapse. It does include collapse, and I have been talking about that on this podcast. If you listen regularly, you know that I focus on spiritual growth, soul development, intuition, and energetics. But through the years, since I've been doing this podcast, since 2012, I do touch on these real world events because they are a big deal. And of course, they matter to our everyday experiences. So the intention is to address the serious matters of today, but to be feeding and amplifying the higher frequencies that will support us in moving through this. So let me touch on these big transits occurring here with the outer planets. Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus, as I mentioned, is at a critical degree of endings. And Uranus is the awakener, liberation, freedom, very unstable, and shakes up whatever needs to be changed. Uranus is a fast-moving frequency here where changes happen overnight and unexpected developments occur. Uranus will be at 29 degrees of Taurus until July 7th. That's when Uranus enters Gemini at 0 degrees, of course. So basically, we're going to have a few more weeks of this Uranus at the critical degree point of Taurus, shaking up economies, financial markets, currencies, shaking up investments, interest rates, trade, oil prices, import, export, and goods and services. Yes, that's a big category, but that is what is happening. And that is what's going to continue to happen here as Uranus moves through this 29 degrees of Taurus for the first time in 84 years and destabilizes what needs to shift and change. Now, as Uranus moves into Gemini, then there are new ways of looking at the problems. How do we solve this? What is the next option? What are the multiple ways to handle this? What are the new solutions and unexpected opportunities that can arise from this instability? And when Uranus moves into Gemini, there are more fast-moving solutions, ideas, and information that shows up around what to do, what to choose, and what to test. When Uranus is in Gemini, the energies are faster moving, and new pathways open. Specifically, 2 pathways occur. So this means that Uranus and Gemini is going to now offer us more choices and options forward. This could mean multiple agreements, treaties, resolutions. But then Uranus is going to return back to 29 degrees of Taurus on November 8th, journey back to 27 degrees of Taurus, and station direct February 4th, 2026, and then re-enter Gemini April 26th, 2026. So this would mean there will be 9 months of greater instability. And this will be affecting, again, those Taurus themes that I mentioned. So we can expect oil prices to rise, which of course means that gas prices will rise. And that will affect all modes of transportation that rely upon gas. And Gemini is about transportation. And then we take that and apply it to import-export, the supply chain, how goods move around the globe, and what that will mean for the average consumer. That will be one of the real-world effects of what is transpiring into 2026. The fluctuations could be quite drastic in economies and in the financial markets over the same span of time. And it is good to even be more conservative, which is a Taurus energy, where it's about cash. It's about what you have in your hand, in your pocket. It's about what you own and what you have accumulated that matters. This also brings up changes in our everyday resources and what we buy at the store for most likely a more increased cost. We've had ongoing themes around Uranus in Taurus energies since 2018, with the most extreme experience being back in 2020, 2021, where there was supposedly a shortage on toilet paper and other resources that we were used to just buying at the store. That can be another theme at this time. I'm not saying it's toilet paper, but with the oil prices changing, it affects what we have in our local environments, right? What you get at your stores, where you have maybe items you bought online that are shipped to your house, those prices go up. And basically, there's just this pulsing uncertainty that continues to be felt. And what I'm saying is that this energy does last into 2026. And this is one way that we benefit from astrology, by planning wisely and being aware of where these big changes are most likely to show up for us at a daily level. Now, with these energies amplified, this is also where we pull in our spiritual practices, our affirmations, and our energy tools to be very conscious and deliberate in connecting with abundance, as a reminder that abundance is everywhere on the planet and that you are innately connected to abundance, that abundance is a frequency that you have a divine birthright to experience. And even as energies shift in the physical world, you can still be beautifully connected to abundance in all forms. And so this could mean that you have things show up for you that support you, things that you need, but they show up through unexpected ways. Maybe someone has extra of this, or someone has the ability to support you with that. Maybe you're able to reach out and help somebody in some capacity, or you receive an unexpected opportunity, invitation, resource. So what I'm saying is that yes, these energies are going to be moving on the planet, and it could be quite drastic at times. Again, it's very easy to go into our primal fears as well as any lifetimes of scarcity, lack, or poverty. But this is a time to use what you've been learning around your own prosperity, abundance, and manifestation vibration potentials that keep you in those higher frequencies, even if you sink at times, which is normal. Even if you go into worry or doubt, it's being able to bring yourself back to that center point of strength, clarity, and certainty that everything that you need is going to show up for you, is going to support you, and is readily available in the universe. Keep in mind that during these big cycles, we can lose connection to the miracle matrix that's always open 24/7, 365. So stay in a deep connection there with the limitless potentials of energies, of rising above, and knowing that even as big changes unfold, you are still strengthened by your connection to universal energetic flow, abundance, support, resources, and prosperity. And that this could be a beautiful opportunity to help you in reprogramming any of those fears, lack, or scarcity imprints. You can set your intention for this to be a beautiful opportunity to bust past any of those old paradigm fears or illusions. And it takes ongoing work. Not going to lie, I'm not saying it's easy, but this is where it counts the most. This is where you're going to see how the universe shows up for you and delivers. So in addition to Uranus being at 29 degrees of Taurus, of course, we also have Saturn and Neptune in the very early degrees of Aries. Neptune entered Aries on March 30th, and Saturn entered Aries on May 24th. Each is going to station retrograde in July. Neptune stations retrograde on July 4th, and Saturn will station retrograde on July 13th. Then they will move back and re-enter Pisces, with Saturn doing so first on September 1st, followed by Neptune re-entering Pisces October 22nd. And then it's in February of next year, specifically February 20th, that they are conjunct at 0 degrees, 48 minutes of Aries, and begin a new synodic cycle together. And this is a big deal because that 0 degree Aries is a world point, meaning it's a reset, very powerful new beginning point at a global level. And at this time, we are in the midst of approaching that beginning point in February. So even though the planets are already here in early degrees of Aries, it's their exact conjunction when the energy is truly intensified and the new beginning actually happens. So what is being experienced and taken action on right now, where action is happening, is not going to be fully resolved until 2026, as the energies are going to both increase, decrease, and then increase again. Now, this is why we use astrology, so that we can understand how these shifts are occurring, so that we can adjust our expectations accordingly. So what I'm saying is that what's going on here in June is not going to be complete for at least 9 months, but it's going to change and look different. So again, it could decrease, die down, and de-escalate, but there's a true new beginning in February of 2026 that we are approaching, and we don't know what that will look like exactly. So this is to help with the timeline and again of expectations of how things are going to unfold. Now, after going through all that, I want to get to the bigger messages here, that what is happening is not what it seems. And what I mean by that is with Saturn conjunct Neptune, Neptune being the more influential energy here, Neptune is where we are confused, there is misinformation, idealism, false understandings, propaganda, lies, half-truths, and the real situation is not fully disclosed. So for all the ways Saturn wants to take charge and be in command, Saturn wants to steer the ship and wants to say, this is where we're going, this is what's going to happen, I will be the commander here, I will move ahead and get it done. And so as much as Saturn wants to steer the ship and make progress and sign deals and have contracts in place, Neptune is the weather. Neptune is the ocean and the storms and the bigger cycles of change that are happening. Neptune brings in the confusion, uncertainty, and misdirections. And in addition to Saturn and Neptune being conjunct in Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, cardinal fire, the desire to initiate, move ahead, be aggressive, be independent, get it done. Neptune is the fire extinguisher that puts out that momentum and dissolves the gusto and drive of Aries, which also impacts the intentionality of moving ahead and making progress. So this combination also tells us that the energies are going to be more slow moving at times, that even if they come out fast and furious and it looks like a lot is happening, there's also less clarity about what to believe, what is real, and what is factual. You have both these planets in Aries sextiling Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is retrograde until October 13th, traveling back to 1 degree of Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius is a very important player as it connects to everything that's happening off planet with the Space Force, with advanced technologies, drones, military strategies, and the overall bigger picture of what's really going on. Now, as I mentioned, it's not what it seems, and that's because we are watching events and experiencing events in a linear time frame. But with the advancements that are available now, that are being practiced and that have been used before, what we are watching is a much bigger story that involves time bending, advanced technologies that we can't truly fathom, and more galactic energies are present than are being disclosed. And so as many of you scrunch up your faces and you're like, what are you talking about, Molly? I'm saying that what is happening here is not what it seems, because what is unfolding is a very high level advanced maneuvering that is way beyond what is being reported. There are other galactic resources involved. There are high-level experiments underway that include time travel, bending time, working with resources and materials that are able to move through different portions of the time-space spectrum. There are technologies in play that we can't even wrap our heads around, because this is actually unfolding at a much more advanced level than humanity is used to. It's been in the works for a while. There have been many of these strategies, weapons, and tools that have been used in other capacities. And what is being fought over is not what it seems either. All of this is part of how humanity is evolving, that we are moving into a fuller relationship with the galaxy, with the Earth's history, with the resources on Earth, with more advanced intelligence, and not simply, or rather only, artificial intelligence, but there is cosmic intelligence, galactic intelligence. It grows in quantum leaps. And of course, it's all highly confidential, highly protected, and way beyond the scope of what the human brain really understands or connects with. And so that's why most people don't believe it. They write it off. They say, no, that's not real. That's not for me. And that, of course, is completely valid, because it can only connect with an individual's level of consciousness and understanding. But what I'm saying is that we aren't going to have the full story of what is truly going on and what is truly being fought over for a while. That could mean many years, that could mean decades. But with these energies coming in, accelerating what's happening on the planet, it intensifies everything we're feeling and sensing, and then we look for ways to understand it. And how do we do so? We turn to the news or social media or an article. We do research, but what is really happening is not disclosed, is not readily available. And so it can be wise for us to just acknowledge that this is a much bigger story than we know. And if we can stay open to that and be willing to expand our consciousness into the unknown before we have proof or evidence or visuals, that is how we're going to also expand our human consciousness and not be locked into only believing what we're seeing or what we're being told. Full story is not going to be readily disclosed, but all the energies that are present here in the astrological signature tell us this is a time of very big cosmic expansion, and that we are ready for it because we are also a part of the new consciousness, of the higher paradigm, that we're holding more levels of awareness, more light codes, and more energies than ever before, and that we are beautiful contributors of this evolutionary phase. And so it's about being empowered with that sense of self and approaching these energies from that sense of self that can help us continue to rise and grow. There are beautiful, benevolent forces present and assisting with these events. There are beautiful, high vibrational beings guiding us and wanting humanity to have the very best in this next phase. And so the more that we can connect with those energies and feel them in ourselves, connect to that higher consciousness that knows how powerful we are, and that it is all about our frequencies, that it's our frequency and our consciousness that matters. And it's up to each of us to stay aware of that. And when we go into the stress, the fear, the worry, and uncertainty, it's important to, again, come back to your own center point that grounds you, strengthens you, and reminds you of what you are capable of creating even as these big energies unfold. We are moving into a new era here on the planet, and this is a part of that transition, but we still continue to choose what we want to put energy towards and what we want to contribute into mass consciousness. As millions of people are going to go into the lower expressions, and it's normal to do so, but it's about staying focused on the bigger picture, the higher path, and being intentional with our consciousness. And as we do so, we also prevent ourselves individually from cycling through previous energies that you've already lived in other lifetimes. So as you change your trajectory and invest in what is best for your energy, staying in those higher vibrational states as much as possible, while being absolutely connected to your humanness, yes, being connected to your heart, your compassion, and what is moving through you. It's understanding that, but we're still in charge of what we're contributing to the mass consciousness and what we want to create with our lives. I'm also seeing a visual of a very still pond, just very still water, but underneath is a lot of worry, stress, and uncertainty, where you might find that you have to show up in certain environments and appear to be a certain way, but deep down within you, you can feel that worry churning. The stress is there, the uncertainty, all of that is very present. And so this would be a beautiful time to then connect to your own soul growth and to focus on why you chose to be here at this time. Why you as a soul said, yes, I want to show up in my awesome human suit. I want to be there to contribute. I know this is a big lifetime of a lot of dynamic changes, a lot of healing, intensity, work, emotions, challenges. You know, we've really been in it for the past few decades especially, but there's always a reason why, and it's a very wise reason. It's a very wise, brilliant intention for why we're here. And so this is a time to strengthen that for yourself and to say, yes, I want to be a part of the transition team. I want to be here to experience the up-leveling on the planet. I want to contribute my awesomeness to how this goes. I want to step into being a more empowered human and to know the power of my consciousness, the power of my intention and my frequency. I want to be in that state of always being connected to the miracle matrix of abundance, prosperity, and creation, even as these big changes unfold. And some people are going to be, yes, that's what I'm going to focus on, and others won't. And of course, this is all about free will and what you want to do with your sovereign energy. But just know that you don't have to feel guilty or feel like you should stay in a certain frequency that doesn't serve you simply because other people are. This is where we have to be empowered humans on the planet who are in touch with what's going on. It's not about disassociating or denying reality, but it's about showing up with that empowered creation intention that contributes to ascension and contributes to more of the higher energies on the planet. This is when it counts. This is when it counts. And again, you might have some things coming up around any discomfort or guilt or whatever else, but this is where it matters the most And this is also where we collectively change the trajectory of the programming on the planet. Many of you are in a lifetime where you are growing beyond your environment. You're growing beyond the people around you. You have ascended beyond your family or your friends or your coworkers, and it could feel like it's hard to be grounded or to even connect in some of these environments, relationships, and experiences because you have already evolved into a new version of yourself. And so please see how beautifully perfect that is, how divinely aligned that is, because that also demonstrates that you are a soul leader and that you're holding a lot of energy within your location, environment, relationships, whatever the case may be, because you're that soul leader who's opening up the new paradigm exactly where you are. And you're meant to be different right now. You're meant to be that more evolved version of yourself. And it can be uncomfortable, especially with world events and with the unstable energies that so many are feeling. But this is where there's divine perfection because we need the soul leaders now. We need those who are rising up, who are evolved and who have changed within. Even if you look the same externally and people wouldn't know how much you've deeply changed, you're going to feel it even more into 2026. Because you're also contributing in a really powerful way to the new paradigm, to where we're going next. And so let me be clear, this doesn't mean you're happy about world developments or you want things to continue to escalate or that you're glad about what is happening. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the planet needs energy leaders who are more advanced, who are not only deeply anchored in the new frequencies, but you're also consciously aware that it serves a purpose in where humanity is going in this next stage, and that it's okay to see the bigger picture and to see higher down the path than most people can see at this time, while also being aware of how difficult and traumatic real world events can be. So again, this is living between timelines. And we've been discussing this on this podcast. In fact, it was just, I think, last Wednesday that I was discussing living between timelines. And you can really feel it at this time with the escalation of energies. And you could really feel how different you are within these world events. And the point is, you're meant to own it. You're meant to own it, strengthen it, anchor it in, feel more powerful in the frequencies that you're holding, walk your talk by using your spiritual tools and your energy tools as needed, but to honor that you're a different person now and you're feeling that because it's right on time. It's exactly what we need on this planet, especially as these big world events continue to unfold. And don't downplay your energy either. Don't shrink it or hold back what you are pulsing out, especially in the name of love, compassion, resolution, peace. Do not dial that down. Rather, dial that up if appropriate and if you feel it's needed. And know that that also is going to continue to shift the energies on this planet during this very big cycle. The more we choose to evolve ourselves, to be more aware of our own sovereign power and abilities, the more we are also breaking out of old paradigms and lower consciousness programming. That again, it might not be evident, it might not be something that you're seeing readily around you, but it counts, it matters, and there are millions of people committed to doing so. And that is one of the big revolutions at this time, is humanity stepping into more of our individual power, owning our sovereignty, and watching that change the planet for the best and highest good, or at least that is, of course, the driving intention. I hope this information gave you a good understanding of what is unfolding at the higher levels, as well as the timeline of how these developments are going to continue. The astrology suggests there will be a powerful new world beginning point in February 2026. And I will be touching more on those energies as we move through the rest of 2025. As always, thank you so much for joining me for the podcast. I'll be back every Wednesday and Monday for a new episode. And may you continue to feel the wise brilliance of your soul guiding you through this phase, giving you the insights and downloads you need, as well as strengthening you with greater love for yourself and how you are here on the planet during this very big phase. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you back here soon.